Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McCann with BYU TV basketball analyst Steve Cleveland. The Cougars open the season with an 81-66 victory over Tennessee State in the Coaches versus Cancer Classic Game 1. Game 2 Tuesday night against Georgia State, and then back east to take on Florida State Friday, and either Notre Dame or St. Joseph's on Saturday. It wasn't pretty, but hey, a win's a win, and any head coach will take a win in the opener.
Absolutely, and I think that Tennessee State plays the kind of style that it makes it really difficult for it to look pretty for 40 minutes. But BYU prevailed, they attacked the pressure, and ultimately they got the ball in the post in the second half, which established the separation that they needed.
Let's take a look at some highlights from the first and second halves of the season opener. Tyler Haws back after a 2-year mission, and he delivered 22 points on the evening. There's Brock Zylstra hitting the three. But Tennessee State came to fight.
They did, and I think that they like to pressure 94 feet, but they also like to attack it offensively. Really two very similar styles. At the end of the day, probably BYU's defense a little more solid, especially with the zone, but you got to love both clubs and how they attack the basket all night.
It was a 6-point BYU lead at the half, 34-28. Tyler Haws with 12 in the first half. In the second, Josh Sharp with the block. Brandon Davies came alive down low, and Haws continued to build on his 22-point night.
Haws and Brandon Davies are going to be the foundation for this team in terms of scoring, but there's a lot of people that can make contributions. Josh Sharp, you mentioned, big block, defending. Nate Austin hit baskets coming off the bench. Brock Zylstra, nice finish. That's something he couldn't do last year. I mean, he couldn't finish that and take it strong. And then Cusick does what he always does, comes off the bench, gets a couple assists, knocks a couple threes down. Nice pass by Carlino. Carlino with 9 assists tonight, only 2 turnovers.
Big play right here. Jordan Cyphers with the dunk. Goes down and lands right on his face. We saw him a moment ago walk off. He's okay. But that was the hit of the night, and it came after the dunk. Now let's look at some stats from the opener. 81-66 the final, and then it was pretty even after that outside of field goal shooting, and the Tigers from out of town went cold and just couldn't get hot.
That's true, and BYU shot 60% in the second half. Tennessee State shot 30%. That was the difference. BYU caught up with rebounding. It was a game where we watched Tennessee State and felt like they were killing BYU in the boards, but at the end of the day, it was 40-40. But Tennessee State's aggression level on the glass was really, really dominant tonight at times.
Brandon Davies, 16.7 rebounds, 4 blocks, and a couple of steals. Robbie Bolo caught up with Brandon after the game.
With Brandon Davies, 12 of your 16 points came after the break. You had just 2 shots in the first half. What were you able to do differently in the second half?
I missed a lot of easy shots, early on, and I maybe kind of rushed things a little bit. And, second half, I was able to settle things down and try to make plays for my teammates.
How was this as a season opener for your team overall?
It was good. We learned a lot about ourselves, and that we need to battle through adversity. I had some early on, and a couple other guys did, but we kept battling.
You had a couple big blocks, a couple big dunks. Which is more satisfying to you, a block or a dunk?
I was just trying to play defense. Like I said, I struggled early, but when you're struggling offensively, you can always help your team out defensively. And that's one thing that coaches emphasize, and one thing I tried to do tonight.
And congratulations. Tuesday, Georgia State comes in here, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, one thing that didn't survive opening night was Tyler Haws' free throw streak. It got to 50, school record, and then he missed one, came back, and I think hit the next 4. But the streak will sit at 50 consecutive for Tyler Haws. Outside of that, everything okay leading into Georgia State Tuesday night.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to watch. Always good to, you made some mistakes, but we still won.
Right.
And you can go back. It's a lot easier to teach. Not quite as much, anger and everybody on edge. Hey, we won the ball game, but let's go back and take a look. And you go back and take a look, there's going to be defensive breakdowns. There's going to be blocking out issues. Let's go back to Brandon Davies. He filled the stat sheet tonight.
Yeah, he did.
Even though he had 5 turnovers, 7 for 9 from the field, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 turnovers, 4 blocks, 2 steals. He was active, and he was the difference maker in the second half.
For more on tonight's game, watch True Blue Monday night at 8:30 Eastern Time. For Steve Cleveland, I'm Dave McCann. Thanks for watching. BYU wins the season opener 81-66 over Tennessee State.